Hello, dear viewers. Today I will share with you an unimaginable story, a journey into the dark depths of the human soul. This is a chilling proof of how a mother and father can replace the promise of love and protection with betrayal, torture, and terror. Our topic: the Turpin family incident. This case, which shocked the whole world in 2018, revealed the hell that a seemingly normal family lived behind closed doors. David and Louise Turpin lived in California with their 13 children. They were smiling in photos and sharing happy family poses on social media. However, behind this mask was hidden a nightmare we could not even imagine. The children had been subjected to physical and psychological torture for years, starved, chained, and completely isolated from the outside world. The youngest was 2 years old. The oldest was 29 years old. These children, who once sought a happy ending like in the Cinderella story, were actually prisoners in their own homes. The horrific beginning of this incident came to light on January 14, 2018, when their 17-year-old daughter Jordan Turpin escaped from a window in her family's home and called 911. Jordan's search was not only for her own salvation, but also for the freedom of her siblings. Despite years of torture, beatings, and hunger, this young girl, who did not lose hope, displayed an example of heroism. What Jordan told in her exhausted and shaky voice horrified the police and the entire community. When the police arrived, they were stunned by what they saw. The children were neglected, starving, and dirty. Some were chained to their beds, and some had not been washed for months. This was not just a house, but also a torture chamber. The false image the Turpin family projected to the outside was one of the most striking aspects of this incident. David and Louise organized trips to Disneyland and claimed that their children played in a band. Their social media accounts bore all the hallmarks of an ordinary, happy American family. However, this was only an illusion. Neighbors and acquaintances stated that they rarely saw the children and that they were not allowed to play outside. The children were educated at home, but in fact, they were not receiving a proper education. In fact, in this home, where even basic needs were not met, it was not even possible to talk about education. This situation showed how systematically and deliberately the Turpins isolated their children. So how did this mother and father dare to treat their own children so badly? What was the motivation behind these inhumane actions? The answers to these questions reveal the complexity of the situation and the dark side of human nature. After Jordan's courageous revelation of the Turpin family incident, David and Louise Turpin were immediately arrested. The charges against them were unimaginable, including torture, child abuse, torture of minors, false imprisonment of adults, and child endangerment. The trial unfolded before the eyes of the entire world, and new horrific details emerged each day. Prosecutors presented strong evidence to prove that the Turpins systematically tortured their children physically and psychologically for years. The children were starved, locked up for days, not allowed to use the toilet, and sometimes prevented from bathing for months. They were deprived of even the most basic human rights. This showed that the children were not only physically harmed, but also mentally and emotionally. The children's testimonies during the trial were heartbreaking. One of the girls described how her mother and father had raped her, while the others were subjected to violence and abuse. Each of the children who testified gave their own accounts of the horrors they had experienced. These statements made the case even more striking and proved once again how cruel and heartless the Turpins were. David and Louise Turpin were sentenced to life imprisonment in 2019 after pleading guilty to all charges. The court ruled that this incident was an unprecedented act of cruelty. This sentence demonstrated the justice system's determined stance against such brutal crimes. However, this was only the beginning for the victims. The victim's recovery process was a long and difficult journey. After the incident was discovered, the children were taken under state protection and began receiving comprehensive physical and psychological support. After many years of abuse, they had to struggle with serious psychological problems such as post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety and depression, as well as physical health problems. For some, regaining their education and socialization skills was like starting from scratch. However, the resilience and adaptability they showed was incredible. Various civil society organizations and volunteers mobilized to help the Turpin brothers. Great efforts were made to provide them with a safe environment, support their continued education, and help them adapt to social life. This process was a testament to how humanity can come together in difficult times. The children showed incredible determination to rebuild their own lives. Some went to college, some went into business, and some took steps towards starting their own families. This story, while tragic, also served as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the potential for recovery. The Turpin family incident was more than just a legal case. It was a public alarm bell. It painfully demonstrated how insidious and widespread child abuse can be, and how the horrors that occur behind closed doors can sometimes be hidden behind the happiest family photos. Following the incident, awareness of child abuse and neglect has increased significantly. People have become more willing to scrutinize their neighbors and families around them, and to report suspicious situations. This has helped increase efforts to detect potential abuse early and to intervene. In addition, the effectiveness of child protection services, strengthening reporting mechanisms, and the importance of support programs for families have become more widely discussed. One of the most important lessons to be learned from this incident is the vital importance of the principle of, if you see something, say something. Although the Turpin family's neighbors rarely see the children, they sometimes notice strange things. Unfortunately, no one took these cases seriously and reported them to the authorities. This became part of a chain of neglect, causing the children to suffer for many years. This incident clearly demonstrated how important a role every member of society plays in protecting children. In any case of suspicion, one should not hesitate to contact the relevant authorities, police, social services, etc. Let us not forget that a child's life can be saved with a phone call. The Turpin family incident also brought to the fore the difficulties brought by home education and work-from-home systems. Such systems can completely sever children's ties with the outside world and pave the way for concealment of abuse cases. Therefore, stronger monitoring and support mechanisms need to be developed to ensure the well-being of children who are home educated or work from home. Schools and other educational institutions play a critical role in children's social development and early detection of potential problems. This incident reminded us once again how important not only the physical but also the psychological and emotional health of children are. In conclusion, the Turpin family incident represents one of the darkest pages in human history. However, in the wake of this tragedy, the resilience of the human spirit, the search for justice, and social solidarity also showed themselves. This story reminds us once again of our responsibility to protect children, that we should not ignore our suspicions and the consequences of remaining silent. In order to prevent similar incidents from happening in the future, we all need to be more careful, more sensitive, and more responsible. Remember, every child deserves to grow up with love and trust. It is our responsibility to be their voice. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next video. Goodbye.